At the time of recording, Fulham are only one of two Premier League clubs who have yet to make a transfer this summer. Normally this would be a bit of a worry, but we have had a summer where we've had international tournaments of the Copa America and the Euros. However, now both of these international tournaments are over, Fulham really need to kick their transfer business into gear. Let's start by looking at the players who've already left the club since the end of last season. And when you look at the list, there's actually quite a few names, 14 to be exact. However, upon closer inspection, you realise most of these players are U-team prospects and players who weren't quite good enough to get in the first team anyway. However, there were 4 players in particular who were crucial to Fulham last season. These are João Palhinha, who left to join Bayern Munich for £47.5 million, Tosin, who left Fulham on a free transfer to join Chelsea, Babu Reed, who left Fulham to join Leicester City, and also Willian, who refused a new contract and has subsequently also left on a free transfer. And between just these 4 players, they played a combined 7,792 minutes last season. That's an average of 1,948 minutes each. And if you don't know what that means, it means they played a hell of a lot and were important to Marco Silva and this Fulham side last season. So let's hypothetically say Fulham are playing their first game of the Premier League season tomorrow. Who would start and who would be on the bench for them? Undoubtedly, it is Leno in goal. The back 4 for me consists of Castagne, Diop, Bassi and Robinson. And in midfield it's Reed, Lukic and Pereira, and a front 3 of Wilson, Iwobi and Muniz. And on the bench, I think Benda is the backup goalkeeper. Then the outfield players consist of Tete, Ream, and Bambu, Kearney, Harris, Traore, Jimenez and Vinicius. Now, I'll be completely honest, Fulham fans, I look at that starting 11 and the 9 options on the bench, and I just think it looks a little bit average to me. I know that might be a bit harsh, but sometimes the truth hurts. And I know some of you might be panicking, thinking to yourselves, right, there's only just over 3 weeks to the start of the Premier League season and we've made no signings. However, I want to give you a little bit of reassurance because I think there's 3 reasons why that you don't need to panic just yet. Firstly, being that you've still got Marco Silva in charge as your manager. He's a Premier League proven manager who's been able to get the best out of this Fulham side previously, and I think he'll be able to do it again. Secondly, because this is exactly what Fulham did in the transfer market last summer. They left it incredibly late to do their business, but they did get it done. And thirdly, there is still just over a month left in the transfer window for Fulham to go out there and make their moves. And so I'm going to be suggesting players who I think Fulham should be signing, who I think are a mixture of improving the first team quality of the squad and also maybe moving those first team players onto the bench to improve the depth, but also players who I think are going to be realistic for Fulham to sign, because no point suggesting players who are going to be out of this world. And I've got 4 names in mind for you. And the only logical place to start is trying to find a replacement for João Palhinha. Now, Palhinha, when he did sign for Sporting Lisbon, was probably a world-class player in this Fulham side, and as you can see, he's gone on to Bayern Munich. Realistically, can you replace Palhinha with just one player? I don't think you can, just because any player who Fulham are going to sign isn't going to be at that same level, and realistically that's going to require a lot of money that Fulham just don't have. So I'm going to suggest 2 players to actually replace João Palhinha in that midfield and take the places of both Reed and Lukic. And the first player who I suggest that Fulham should sign this summer is actually a player they've been heavily linked with already, and that is Andre, the defensive midfielder from Brazil who plays for Fluminense. And over the last 6 to 12 months, it seems like everyone is looking for a defensive midfielder, and he's been on a lot of clubs' radar. However, no one has seemed to be able to take a chance on him just yet, and that's quite surprising to me considering his qualities on the ball and defensively. And to me, it seems a bit like the João Palhinha situation when he was at Sporting Lisbon, where everyone knew he was a quality player, but no one wanted to take a chance. I think this is a fantastic opportunity for Fulham to steal a march on some other clubs and to get themselves a hold of potentially a world-class defensive midfielder. In the Fluminense side, he plays as a sole number 6 and is incredibly good at winning the ball back, and he's averaging 7 ball recoveries per game in the Brazilian league so far this season, and when he's on the ball he's got a 94% passing accuracy. However, the only downside I can see of Andre is sometimes he gets a bit overconfident on the ball. He likes to drive out a little bit and he does end up giving the ball away, and that does often leave his side leaving a little bit vulnerable at the back. However, I think when he goes to the Premier League, I think he will be more of that sitting right in front of that defence doing the João Palhinha role. However, I do think that he lacks a little bit of physicality. So he's only 5'7" and he's not used to the physicality of the Premier League just yet. Therefore, I think that maybe he needs someone alongside him to partner him, and I don't quite think it's Sasha Lukic and Harrison Reed for a full Premier League season. I think Fulham need another signing next to him, and for me, I've gone for Vinicius Souza. Now, Vinicius Souza is a bit more of a known quantity to Premier League fans. At 25 years old and playing for Sheffield United in the Premier League last season, he made 36 appearances for the Blades and he started 29 of those. He also played as a defensive midfielder for the Blades last season, making 4.3 ball recoveries per game and 3.5 tackles per game. and standing at 6'2", he's more of that physical presence in that midfield that we're used to in the Premier League. And I think a partnership with both Sousa and Andre could be something that Fulham fans can get really excited about next season. So let's bring Sousa and Andre in, and Lukic and Reed would then move further out. I think Sousa would probably play more on the right-hand side. I think Andre is capable of playing on the left-hand side. And automatically that midfield, that old Brazilian midfield, automatically starts to look a much stronger. But not only that, in midfield, if you think about what it means for the bench, I think young Harris, you probably send him back out on loan. You put Reed to the bench. And you think, do you probably need 2 strikers on the bench? Probably not. Maybe Vinicius you either sell or loan out again. We'll move Jimenez and Traore up. And then you could put Lukic there as well. So all of a sudden, the midfield looks a lot stronger than the starting 11 and also on the bench. I think Fulham fans, you might be wondering to yourself, is this a bit too defensive with both Sousa and Andre? Well, like I said, I think Andre does like to pick up the ball in the defensive areas and also drive forward a little bit. So I think he can do that job where he's more, going a bit more box to box, having the freedom to go left and right to be able to put out fires wherever they're on the pitch. And I think Sousa was likely to be that defensive midfielder, that more of that lighthouse who just sits in front of the back four and breaks up play. So I think a combination of both can work really well, because obviously Andre could also then end up sitting back. Sousa could then end up going as well, being the more physical presence, box to box. But I think whichever way you have it, I think this midfield looks a lot stronger. And for Fulham's next signing, let's move further back in the team and let's talk about the defence and in particular the centre-backs, because obviously Tosin Adarabioyo left Fulham on a free transfer to join Chelsea. That obviously means that Issa Diop is likely to step forward and become the starting centre-back alongside Calvin Bassey. However, one injury to Diop and all of a sudden we're talking about a centre-back partnership of Bassey and Ream. Both left-footed, neither of them really want to be playing on the right-hand side. And then you're talking about maybe a youngster coming onto the bench as being the fourth-choice centre-back option. So not only do they need someone in the first team to really go on and challenge Diop for that first-team place, but also they need an option just for the bench as well, just to provide a little bit of depth and cover. And my suggestion for Fulham at centre-back is Martin Vidic. He's a 21-year-old, 6'4", right-footed centre-back who played for Sparta Prague last season. He made 42 appearances in all competitions, getting 5 goals and 1 assist in the process. His more notable games, he did play in both legs of the Europa League round of 16 tie against Liverpool. However, they did get thumped 11-2 in those games on aggregate, so that's not too reassuring. However, he did make the Czech squad for Euro 2024, which is really good. But again, he didn't play a single minute in the games against Georgia, Turkey or Portugal in the group stages. So that's not great, but he is only 21 years of age and he is incredible in both boxes, aerially dominant and sound on the ball as well. He's got a good eye for a pass and makes the right decisions a lot of times. And despite his height at 6'4", he is relatively quick as well. He's got all of the raw attributes to be a future star, and he's actually been linked with the move away this summer. He's been linked with the likes of Southampton, Feyenoord, Napoli, Marseille, but most notably Fiorentina, who have actually reportedly made a bid worth 10 million euros. And I think this is one where that's probably going to get rejected. And I think if Fulham were to make a bid for him, I think it's one where either Fulham get him now or another club in Europe is going to get him, and then in a couple of years' time we'll be talking about him as the next elite centre-back who's ready to make the step up for a Champions League level side. So I think he's very raw, but I think Fulham could definitely get him now, and I think they could play him, maybe interchange him with Diop a little bit. It doesn't really matter, but I think this is one where he's such a talented player, and I think he's suited for the Premier League with his physicality and his passing ability, which is very underrated. I think it's one where he could go straight down that Fulham side right now and make a real difference. So you could definitely bring him in, maybe playing him alongside Bassey. He could be the more aerodominant, more aggressive one, and Bassey can be the one sweeping up in behind. You can maybe move Diop to the bench, and you could possibly just not have Tim Ream in the squad whatsoever. I think considering his age, I don't think he'd mind that too much, and his loyalty to Fulham as well. And I think all of a sudden that defensive options of Tete, Diop and Mbumbu probably look a lot more reassuring than it was before with Ream on the bench as well. But say Vidic, being young defender that he is, new to the Premier League, say, he does have a bad game or two, you can always take him out. You can bring Issa Diop back in, who's not amazing, but he's solid and he's more than capable of playing at this level. And all of a sudden you have that bench as well. I think that's also fine. Maybe Mbumbu gets sold this summer. Maybe you can bring Tim Ream back into the squad. Whichever way you want it, it provides you with options. And I think for me, Vidic, whether he starts now or not, I think, Fulham, if they were to go in for him, which I think they really should, they could definitely have a really solid player on their hands. And with the midfield and defence sorted, we have to look towards the forward areas and especially the wide players, because when you think about the fact that Willian and Bobby Decordova-Reid are not going to be there next season, Fulham desperately need another wide player to accompany Alex Iwobi, Harry Wilson and Adama Traore. And the player that I've gone for played in the Championship last season and really set it alight. And for me, that player is Jack Clarke. Sunderland's 23-year-old left winger last season played 40 times and he got 15 goals and 4 assists last season. And I think he's ready for the next stage of his career. He's ready to take it to the next level. I think Fulham could be the perfect place for him. He can start on the left hand side, he can maybe play on the right hand side as well, but he's a player who can go both on the inside and on the outside. He does seem to favour his right foot a lot. His left foot could do with a little bit of work, but when you think about the fact that 15 goals in the Championship is no joke, and we've seen players who've taken that step up and done really, really well. If you think about the likes of Jared Bowen, obviously I'm not comparing the two, but that's the levels where you would hope Clarke could hopefully reach. I think at Fulham, under the likes of Marco Silva with his manager, he could really turn into that. When you think about the fact that his contract is up in 2026, so he's only got 2 years left. Sunderland will probably, likely demand a fee of about 20 to 25 million. And I think if you were to sign Clarke, not only would it add immediate depth to the squad, but then in a few years, maybe 18 months, he could really become a starter on the left-hand side and really take his game and Fulham to the next level as well. And then let's bring in Jack Clarke, and let's say he's going to go on the left-hand side, which gives you a decision of who you want on the right-hand side. Would it be Iwobi? Would it be Wilson? I'm going to go with Alex Iwobi just because I think he's a little bit more consistent. But then all of a sudden you need a place on the bench for Harry Wilson, and then you think to yourself, God, now you've got a few decent options. Who do you take out? I'll probably take out Tim Ream just because of the fact that you've really got a defender and a centre-back in Diop on there. Put Wilson on the bench. And all of a sudden, to me, not only that first 11, but their bench options are much, much better. And that, I think, is a side that Marco Silva could really work with and get the best out of next season. You have the likes of Castagna bombing up and down, the same with Robinson on the other side as well. You can have Sousa and Andre in the double pivot. One of them could sit, one of them could go. It could be either one. You don't have to discriminate between the two. I think Andre Pereira obviously had a fantastic season for Fulham last year. He can continue to be as good as he was. And let's hope that Muniz can continue to score the goals up top. And then Clarke, Iwobi, Traore and Wilson. You've got options in the wide areas as well. And for me, that is a side that can potentially even challenge for the top 10 in the Premier League next season. But Fulham fans, I want to hear from you. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Would you be happy if that was your summer window? Would you be happy with those 4 players? Which ones do you agree with? Which ones do you disagree with? And what would be your ideal summer transfer window? Thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.